Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Sour and Sass. I am very excited to be here today, and I'm joined by Chad Reid. Chad, welcome to the show. VP
Thanks,
of Marketing at JotForm. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
No, man, this is going to be great. Now, we were talking a little bit offline, and you and I share one commonality. I'm sure there's more, but we're both bootstrapped. I never saw it like as a disability or like I don't know. I never even occurred to me as something that affected my marketing because I always figured my marketing should make me money. So I never like struggled with it. But I know in the VC world in Silicon Valley, kind of like SaaS firms, it's a big difference. What do you think the big difference between bootstrapped VC funded? Like, how does that affect your marketing?
Autonomy, honestly. I think if you can grow a company and thrive at being bootstrapped, then who do you answer to other than your CEO and founder? And luckily, he's extremely supportive of our marketing efforts, and it just getting buy-in on our projects, and fortunately he green lights a lot of ideas, whether he's unsure if they're going to work or not, and kind of gives us that flexibility. So I think having that leeway can only really come from a bootstrap company where you can make your case for whether it's a good idea or not, but like really just having that approval process in place, to me, I think makes a big difference. And we carry that like a badge of honor. Like it's bootstrap by choice at this point. And I didn't. I'll just a quick side note. I didn't realize that necessarily at first. Like it wasn't a sell coming into it. I'd come from I previously was at a failed startup before JotForm, and then I remember during that interview process, they're like, "Oh, we're bootstrapped. We're doing it ourselves," and then that was really just code for no one will give us money. So I went into the JotForm interview, and we were talking about it, and it really became clear that the foundation on this company is actually very, very strong. The product is very, very strong. The customers are loyal, and we have a lot of them, and we really are bootstrapped by choice. So that became apparent, and it's 6.5 years later since I've been here, we're still bootstrapped and growing and thriving. So yeah.
That's amazing, Chad. No, I love to hear that. And I think it's cool to hear your perspective on autonomy, because I think people think VC, they think big budget, but I think big budget also equals big approval, right? In a lot of senses. And they might devalue how much they actually need autonomy as a marketer, which I always find unique, especially working with like our publicly traded clients, how apathetic you can become. They aren't all like that, and most of them fight it, but you have to fight apathy in a very non-autonomous environment, I found. So very interesting. Now, I had a question for you. So when we look at JotForm, you're doing a big push with Facebook and Google sign-up forms, essentially allowing those organizations to pull the data in and decrease the steps and like one-click sign-on to a certain extent, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? What's the drawbacks? What should we be aware of? Like if I wanted to do that today, let's say like for a SaaS company and recommend it on their landing page, what are the pros and cons? Like what should we weigh? Like how do you think about it?
When you say Facebook, do you mean embedding a form on Facebook?
No, like when I land on your page, I can sign in or sign up with Facebook, sign up with Google. Yeah. Like so this sign up with a third party type of concept. Pros, easy one-click sign up, right? To a certain extent. What's the cons? Like, what should we be aware of? What do you juggle? Like, what do you think about it?
There aren't really huge cons for us. We didn't ask for a lot of information before. We're a freemium service. We kind of deal in big numbers and big sign up numbers. So it's really just pros for us. Like we have it's not only an easy step or a seamless process to sign up, but it's also at this point something that consumers are familiar with and comfortable seeing. So I think they almost expect that when they're interacting with a SaaS product. So we've seen huge sign up growth with that, and that's I honestly can't even think of any drawbacks. It's been great. Yeah.
Okay. Hell yeah. I mean, I don't see a lot of people doing that. It's funny because you said consumers, which I love. I mean, you could technically call yourself B2B, but you obviously have this consumer centric marketing, which I think is brilliant. What about hidden fields? So let's say I'm running Google ads using offline conversion tracking, and I want to do target CPA. So I want to know what % of people come to JotForm, sign up, and fully create a form. And then I'm going to create that as an event, and I'm going to say I'm willing to pay the X amount for someone to take Y action, and I'm going to pipe that data back to Salesforce. Can I do hidden fields with like sign up via Google and Facebook? Is there a way to still use offline conversion tracking and more advanced like performance marketing stuff with Google sign on and things like that?
As a user?
As a marketer, like if I'm in your seat and I run like offline conversion tracking or use a hidden field or Google Click ID, like is there any way for me to do that with the social signups?
To a degree, but we tend not to maybe even get that granular with their AdWords, but I think I think for us we just boil down to use cases and really targeting those keywords, and then putting most of our budget toward that and kind of leveraging those for signups.
Yeah, I love that. I'm just curious, but I haven't actually ran it or set it up before, so I love where your head's at. Templates for growth. You all do something really cool with your templates where you've also integrated almost to where it feels like an app. So like when I go to your templates, I see demo and I can actually experience the template. I think you're doing a really good job with product-led growth like that. And I'm pushing more organizations to do it, but we struggle to get buy-in. What was it like getting buy-in to create such an integrated experience? I think you all do a really, really good job of that. Like, what was that like internally?
It predates me, but I'll tell you, it really was organic growth, like in every sense of the word, because a lot of our templates are user generated and user uploaded. So we kind of built this enormous template library without a lot of effort up front. And it's kind of amazing because it led us to growth channels and segments that we wouldn't have even thought about, right? Like all of a sudden we're ranking really well for photography session agreements, right? Like I don't think that was on anyone's mind before a user who was a photographer created that and uploaded it, but all of a sudden we have we're ranked number one for that, and photographers make up an outsized portion of our user base, and it was all just because a user many years ago uploaded that to our template gallery, and we've reaped the benefit ever since. So there's a lot to be said about just allowing your users to do that, and especially going back to if you have loyal users and users who are really advocates for your product, they're going to want other people to be able to use it and kind of create a community. So there are drawbacks. We have to occasionally police and do some quality control on what people upload to our template gallery. But the benefits outweigh the cons in this case, and we're able to identify our use cases really, really specifically and get a lot of users. We have over 10,000 templates. I mean, it's a lot of templates.
And they all are indexed, right? And they all rank technically, and they all go into net new acquisition.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm so jealous.
I mean, honestly, it's sometimes more of a problem of whittling it down and making sure the template that we want to rank is ranking, because we'll have a bunch ranking for various similar keywords, but it allows you to get more granular too. If it's we don't just have to do a PayPal, or I'm sorry, we don't have to just do an order form. A template, we can do a PayPal order form template or whatever other PayPal or
long tail,
another other payment processor that might fit with it. So t-shirt order form, whatever it is, like very, very specific. We can have a template for that and it'll rank. So yeah, it's worked quite well.
I love that, Chad. Now it is Sour and Sass. Are you ready?
Oh, is it? Oh boy. Okay, so do I want to go blue raspberry, watermelon, or black cherry?
Little known fact for our listeners who might watch this show every week: I am allergic to watermelon, and melons in general. So I have to avoid all melon flavored sour candies. I don't swell up and die on the show.
Yeah. Well, out of respect,
right, are you ready?
I will go with a blue raspberry.
Yep, let's do it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's sour. It's not the same as my coffee. Let me tell you. And don't mix sour candy and coffee. Not friends.
Yeah. This is really unpleasant.
Oh yeah, this is every morning, man. I love this show. Best show ever. So check this out.
It's worse than I thought.
Oh yeah, it is. No, this is. And by the way, the first one better than the second. Second one's gonna kill you. So, but we'll get there. Now, your name's JotForm. Yet, the more I explore your website, the less I see forms.
Yep.
So it seems like we're at this, like, I don't want to call it a product crisis. I'm going to call it a product transformation. How are you juggling that? Like, you get where I'm going with this? Like, how are you juggling your name's JotForm? Your product historically was forms. And the more I go deep, you're pivoting into tables, simple CRMs, and more like the wave that you see Notion on and Airtable on. What's the thought here? What's the strategy? Like, how are you all navigating this?
You're asking a $1 million question, and it's actually one that we pose internally quite a bit, right? Like, we're sort of at an inflection point. We're at our 15-year mark at the company, and we just crossed I don't want to quite announce it to the world, but a rather large user number. I think we're at a point where a sort of decision time on what we talk about or how we position the company.
Like, who are
There's
we?
kind of two pulling thought ideas here, right? And one of them is we have these products that we built. We have an incredible product team, and the idea behind that was always we're going to be giving our users something more that they can do with the data that they're collecting through their forms. And we're gonna use JotForm tables is a huge launch, right? It does put us in that like sprint phase.
It looks good. Like your product looks good. It looks very like competent. That's why I was like, they put some resources in it. It wasn't like they accidentally tried something. Like, they are trying something. Yeah.
It's funny. The timing ended up being funny because Google Tables kind of had like their beta launch a month before we did, and it looked like we whipped this thing together in 30 days to counter that. It wasn't the case. It was a 2-year build, and a lot of research went into that, and a lot of our talented developers put a lot of hours into that. But yeah, I mean, so it's do we reposition JotForm as, hey, we're this bigger, we're clearly more than forms. Here's what we have. We have these PDF workflows too that we've built on, and JotForm tables, and we have a really ambitious roadmap for 2021. But the central driver of growth for us has always been forms. That's the thing we're always going to be the best at. And it's our CEO kind of like famously told us, like, it's a puzzle. Forms are the puzzle piece that are at the center of this puzzle, and everything we're kind of building is around that. And it's the one thing that I can say that we're going to be the industry leader in. We're going to be the best in the market. We have that, and kind of what we build around that is sort of should fuel our form product. And I think that's a differentiator. So I think if you look at a lot of these other services, or if you look at an Airtable, they've done they built a really great product, but their forms aren't JotForm. They have Airtable forms, but they can't do the things that we can do. So that's sort of our USP when we look at it as like a, where do we fit in this ecosystem?
This is something I never thought about though, Chad. So like, what makes a great form? Like, because like in my mind, when I think form, and this isn't anything against JotForm, I think Typeform, and I think Gravity forms. That's because I'm like a marketing guy who did a bunch of WordPress stuff. So I always use Gravity form. And then Typeform, I always thought their layout was cool.
Right.
But I never thought either of them was a better form than the other. So like, because it's a tough thing about forms, right? Is it's such a like, does it work? And I kind of spin up the CSS is how I think a mass market thinks about it. You obviously think about it different. So what is a great form? Like, how can we understand that? Because I think that fuels a lot of what your beliefs are, what you communicate.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the user for sure. It's really use case driven, but we've layered on so many features and integrations that kind of separate us, frankly. If you want to collect payments simultaneously with your form, we have 30 payment processors. So if you're using a different, if you're using an existing payment processor already and you want to be able to transfer that into some sort of an online form capacity, be it an application fee on your application form or a registration fee for a registration form, order form, donation form for nonprofits, you name it. We have a incredible selection that
I get what you're saying right now. So what you're saying is you have the best form for accomplishing outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like you know what I'm saying? Like, because all those other forms, they don't accomplish any outcome, right? Like gravity forms is what engineers I found on WordPress like to use. I don't know why. I just end up having a gravity form on my WordPress site, but I never really chose it. And then type form, people think the UI is cool, but there's no outcome. You're talking about outcomes, right? Like we want to accomplish something. JotForm helps you accomplish things via forms, which then makes sense on the tables, right? Because you're so outcome oriented as an organization. I can see that connection now that I didn't see before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've layered on a lot of other products that kind of support that too. That we're really, really proud of. And I think one thing about JotForm too that I think when we were going up against Typeform, and when Typeform was sort of emerging, what made us different was, your forms aren't going to look uniform. They're not. You're not necessarily going to look at a form created through JotForm and say, oh, that's a JotForm. Whereas with Typeform, it's like you get their style and it's cool, and people certainly like it. But with JotForm, you make it your own. You can, several years ago we kind of launched an advanced CSS designer that even if you don't have technical skills, you can really manipulate it to look exactly like your brand and your website. So a lot of people are interacting with JotForm and you don't even realize it. It's not announcing itself to the world by any stretch. So that's always something that we kind of leaned on as well. I don't know. Yeah. And then Hipaa Compliance, right? Like during the pandemic, that's been a big that's something that most of our competitors, most of the form software in our space don't offer. So if you're in the medical field or certain nonprofits or governments or whatever it is, and especially when you're thinking about signing people up for a vaccination or a telehealth appointment or whatever imagine the use case.
We're using it every day and we don't even realize it. We're using a JotForm literally every day and we don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now
we're everywhere.
One of the things I find interesting is integrations. And it sounds like you all have done such a good job of plugging yourself into your ecosystem as a SaaS company, whether that's, UGC and templates and plug yourself into Google and use cases or integrations and outcomes. How has integrations powered your growth and how can other SaaS marketers use integrations to grow? Because I think it's obviously been a huge part of your success.
Yeah, it's kind of twofold. One of them is it creates stickier users, right? Like if you we weren't naive at first, like people, especially before we were building products or things that you can do with the information that you collect within JotForm, people are using those forms for an entry point into some other system that they're working in. So we're creating better users by giving them the best form experience that the internet provides, and that integrates with their work tracking system if they're using Asana or Trello or email marketing or CRM or cloud storage or whatever. But being able to offer that, like the correlation between not only free and paid and whether they use integrations, but the various paid tiers and how many integrations they have is pretty striking, right? So we have like a bronze, silver, and gold, and our gold users are not just using on average 1 or 2 integrations. They're using like several integrations and they have multiple forms and they're connecting through multiple systems. So we see it as like a really, a churn reduction mechanism, but also a driver in encouraging that kind of growth. The other thing I wanted to say too is like we look at integration partnerships through the lens of marketing and co-marketing output, right? So it's I almost think of it in the same way that I would think of PR. Like they're a publication and they're a channel that we're hoping to tap into their audience. If that we would like if the Asana blog mentions us, then that we look at that as a win in the same way that we would a mid to upper tier tech blog or something like that that's like talking about our solution. So co-marketing is like a big point of emphasis, and fortunately we have great partners that see the value of JotForm and we see the value of them, and we're always happy to go to market with them.
Do you have someone full-time owning integrations for you when you think about your team internally? Is that like a full-time focus? How does that like work for you?
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Yeah. On our side, we have a partner marketing manager, but we also have an integrations team dedicated to, building, maintaining integrations as well. So it's a big focus for us. It's a big focus for us. And I imagine it's going to continue to be a big focus for us.
No, 100%. Now, you said something earlier about your plans and your features. I wanted to unpack that a little bit. I was curious. You have monthly and annual pricing. You use a toggle. I always love the toggle. I think it's a really cool little way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
How did you decide the percent change? I was always curious about that. I've never like, did y'all kind of like just pull it out of your butt? Is it accidental? Did you have like a scientific method? Like, are you continuously testing that to see if you can find like larger LTV out of it? Like, how are you going about testing annual versus monthly pricing?
Yeah. We I think we're still continuing to test that. And I can't even remember how we ended up on the percent difference. And I'm not even sure what percent difference you were seeing, because that might actually be the result of a test. So I can't even speak with any kind of authority on like what it's actually going to be. Same goes with our like subscription pricing. We've like tweaked it just to see, are more people going to sign up for silver if we raise bronze, or lower silver, or whatever, because we ultimately, it feels healthier to get people kind of in that middle one. I don't know. Other than to say, it usually starts out pretty unscientifically until we start testing and kind of seeing what works from there. Yeah.
Cool. God,
I'm sure a lot of discounts, and we do discounts are on the annualized side. So for users who are signing up, there's a 24-hour window in which they can go from free to paid if they a 50% discount if they take action within that window, and they get an annual plan. So that's been a driver of growth. And we have like multiple, sales kind of throughout the year. We usually do a summer sale and end of year sale. And our users are kind of know to expect it at this point, but it's great. We'll take it, right? Like,
methodology wise, right? Saas, I mean, I've been doing these interviews. I'm on like season 3 now. No one talks about sales. No, like that is not a like best practice in the SaaS world right now. It sounds like it's working for you, and I don't believe in best practices myself. So like, why? What's the logic? Why are we running sales? I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I'm just like really curious how you got there when it like, why are you zigging when everyone's zagging?
The numbers would suggest it's worth it. Like the number of people who were free users that. Well, and I think that's the space we play, and the percent too. And when you think about freemium, we're not trying to undervalue our product, but for people who are maybe on the fence, or not necessarily sure that they wanted to, and we're giving them. So we're going from free to paid, even if it's a 50% discount. We get the volume over these periods that. It definitely makes it worth it. Yeah, and we've been doing it for years, and I think every year it gets a little bit better because we're tapping into that the free user market, and we think we're probably convincing people by also like using that opportunity to highlight some of the extra features, or not even features, but extra capabilities that you can do with JotForm if you get into that. So I don't know. I think of course. I think
I mean, we give away $100 gift cards for people to take a proposal with us, and everybody thinks we're crazy, but it works. Like, you do the math and something works, it just works, right?
Right. Yeah.
We have sour candy.
Oh man, see, it's just now getting like I've kept the other one in my mouth, and it's like just now getting sweet. Sorry, I gotta. Let me.
You ready?
Hold on. What flavor are you going with?
Good question. I'm gonna say orange pineapple.
Promising.
We've I mean,
No
I've
black
never
cherry.
like in my head I was like, "Ooh, you got any orange pineapple daiquiris?" So let's say, oh, that one's so much more sour. It's not even close. The second one just slaps you.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah,
You have that
but
sweet aftertaste from the first one, and you're following it up with something really,
like
powerful.
debilitatingly sour.
Mm.
Now, sounds like you have this like low cost, high volume acquisition through your templates, integrations, UGC, co-marketing,
Mhm.
and then you focus on activation with discounts, sales, other things like that. What does your team look like internally in a freemium organization?
Yeah.
So that you can focus on activation. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but it sounds like you focus more on activation than you do acquisition, just due to your probably your cost per acquisition profile. So, or what does that look like? Yeah.
Well, we didn't actually touch on probably one of our biggest drivers of growth, and that's content. So internally, the team structure was a lot of focus on content. We have internal writers, content strategists, content operations, a number of various SEOs. We have a full-time editor just to clean up our content and make sure it's consistent with our guide. We produce 100,000 words of blog content a month.
Holy crap, Chad.
100,000 words. For context, that's a 400-page book that we're putting out every month. So,
and how much headcount is required for 100,000 words? Just so people actually have a reality of what it takes to do it the right way, instead of just burning out 3 writers, getting no results, and quitting in 3 months.
Yeah, that's fun. That's a fun topic. So I would say we probably have 10 people spread across 2 different teams. We have our growth team, where they kind of deal with more the site maintenance side of it and coming up with some of the topics as well. And then our designers too are on our growth team. And then our marketing team, we have the 2 writers, the editor, another SEO. But it takes a prodigious amount of effort and resources, and also freelancers. Can't do it without freelancers.
Yep.
Which is a mixed bag. Like there's really we've had to evaluate and really go through quite a few.
When you get a good one, Chad, you got a good one. Like I've been doing freelancers for 7 years on content, and when you get the good ones, I mean, I have some of them for 3-4 years that feel like they're a part of the organization because we're their lifeblood of their salary, and they like to freelance, they have freedom, and now
totally
10 people. Okay, let's just go 10 times 100. Let's say we got $1 million. Okay, in head count on content. When you do an LTV CAC ratio, let's say internally, and you look at and you break it down by channel, right? So you have direct, which we'll exclude. We just look at organic, and then we go look at paid. Are you seeing, due to the sunk cost of organic, aka you invest in a piece once and then every net new lead hits against an initial cost per acquisition, but not an ongoing? Are you finding like increasing marginal returns from this strategy and then decreasing from paid? Or how do you balance paid and organic since you've made such a large investment?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely silo those two, but it was tough to see the returns early with any SEO game, right? It's such a long game, and not every piece of content pans out, and some of the pieces generate a lot of traffic and not a lot of users. So it was hard to evaluate it from a ROI perspective early on, and but recently, this is the great thing. It pays dividends, and something that we would have, published 9 months ago, all of a sudden starts to, bump up in the search, or there's a trend that captivates the world, or a global pandemic, and maybe we have some keywords that related to telehealth that maybe weren't doing so well earlier, but all of a sudden are booming. Then we're glad we have those pieces of content. So we're at the point now, we're getting just raw signups. I think we're over 5,000 signups per month, just based off of our blog, and a lot of that is very high quality, depending on what they're seeking specifically. But we're getting a lot of really high quality users, and ultimately we're banking on, or we at least see that enough of them are turning into paid users to make that worth it.
Yeah, a lot of people think bootstrap, and then they think, oh no, budget. Obviously, you have a budget.
Yep.
If we're trying to build a team of organic, and we want to go like, this is what I see. I see people say they want SEO, so they hire us. Cool. We need some things internally for us to be successful, right? Just like you didn't just like hire a writer and be like, "Ooh, 100,000 words, baby, get to work," right? So like,
yeah,
if someone's listening to this and like, Chad, you've inspired us. We have a freemium product. We're seeing diminishing marginal returns across paid. We're struggling to hit our LTV CAC ratio. We need to create balance. We want to invest in things today that'll pay back tomorrow. How would you go about building an organic team right now with everything you learned?
It's tough. It's so resource dependent. And because even if you have good ideas, and we have like great strategy team. We also reap the benefits of having a really strong domain and think that we can be competitive for competitive keywords.
Yeah.
If you're just starting out, you have to look at some of those grittier methods and think about where you can get your site listed and like kind of play that game, which fortunately we haven't had to do as much of lately. But yeah, I mean, you kind of need a foundation before you can start thinking about getting after certain keywords or whatever, right? Because if you just go off on your own and writing blog posts, like the return is going to be really, really minimal, if at best, right? And then that might not be worth it. Like you kind of have to hit a certain level of
brand authority. You need some type of like me. I used to guest post for everybody. Now I can write something on my site. I can rank for it, right? So let's say though I have guest posted, I have a domain authority. I feel confident in my domain. What do I need to build my team? Do I need one strategist, two strategists? For every one strategist, do I need 2 writers, 3 writers? For every strategist, do I need an SEO or the same person? Like how does that team makeup look like?
Strategy first. Yeah, okay. Strategy first. I kind of, when we were embarking on this quest for 100,000 words, I very mistakenly thought, oh, the people who write the content will come up with the ideas, and they're just very, very different skill sets. They really are. Like the strategist needs they're a well-versed, conversant SEO who knows how to generate these ideas, and that's just asking too much to find someone who's a career writer to all of a sudden like develop this sense of technical know-how, right? So you have to start with strategy before you have anything in place, and then kind of I'd say probably that maybe the first way to go is freelancer if you can get a good one. I would say it's you have to vet them. You have to look at their writing samples. You have to make sure that they're up for continuing work. We like having both because our internal in-house writers are kind of our product experts. They're not necessarily focusing on SEO pieces, but they do deep dives and they're getting paid the salary, not the freelance fee, to be product experts. But that's not necessarily the case if you're playing the SEO game and you just need to generate traffic and have good writing to do it. I would say make sure your quality counts. Like I really don't like the discount services, these like self-service platforms to get content for, you can get a blog for $70. It's going to take you longer to edit that thing and make it readable than it would have been to just write it yourself.
For 1,000 words, what do you think we should pay?
$300.
I was going to say 300 too. I was going to say 250 to 400, like anywhere in there. Like, this is
I mean, it also kind of depends on where your freelancers live. If they're in the middle of the country, they're going to look for a little bit less of a fee. If they're in the Bay Area, it gets as high as like 400 to 450. And we're not super, we evaluate based on quality, not necessarily the price. And we want to make sure that like we're giving them a fee that they're happy with and excited about. Because honestly, the more you pay them, the more they're going to want to keep producing work for you. So, we've even created incentives, I guess, for some of our writers. Like, hey, if you write X number of posts per month, we'll pay you for an additional post, just to
Like that.
to kind of put that in place, and it,
Yeah.
it gets them excited, it gets us excited, and keeps the engine moving.
I love it, Chad. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for going so deep with us. It was fun. I wanted to really, because like what you all are doing is very unique, right? You have a very multi-functional product with a very cool growth strategy. Like, it was really, really fun, exciting, and chatting about it with you. So thank you so much, Chad. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Garrett. It was a blast.
It's been great. Well, hey, thanks everybody. That's Sour and Sass.